Oh, there's no clock anywhere in this vicinity. Jack, could you please inform me of the time at this present moment?
No, I cannot inform you of the time, but maybe Tom can.
Well, there's no clock in this present vicinity, according to Dell, and I can't find one either. But I can tell you one thing. It's podcast time. Hello and welcome to another fine edition of Blah De Blah with me, Tom Feeney.
Me, Dale Harris.
And me, Jack Elliott.
Welcome to Blah
De
Blah.
Now, Tom Feeney with the news.
The head of the UN has said monitors trying to reach the Syrian village of Quba, where 78 people are said to have been killed, were fired upon. Addressing the UN General Assembly, Ban Ki-moon condemned the reported massacre as shocking and sickening. The number of confirmed and suspected cases in the Legionnaire's disease outbreak in Edinburgh has increased to 51. The new total was revealed by Health Secretary Nicola Sturgeon in a statement to MSPs at Holyrood. One man has died in the outbreak. He has been named as Robert Eyre, 56 years old, from the Seafield area of the capital. The remaining 397 Clinton card stores have been sold to a US greeting card company, saving 4,500 jobs. Lakeshore Lending Limited, a subsidiary of card makers American Greetings, has bought its brands and assets, administrators Zalfo Cooper have said. Clinton cards went into administration on May the 9th. And finally, David Cameron has said the future health of the UK economy is linked to the Eurozone's ability to resolve its financial problems. Speaking in Berlin, where he's holding talks with Chancellor Angela Merkel, the Prime Minister said he wanted the single currency to succeed. Now, Dale Harris with the sport.
Thank you. Euro 2012 gets underway tomorrow with the opening in Poland, with the opening game, being Greece against Poland. England's first game will be on Monday against France, with Ireland's first game against the Croatians on Sunday. Stuart Lancaster has called up two uncapped players for the first test against South Africa in Durban. It's the first of three tests in their tour, South Africa. The third test between England and West Indies has been called off. The first day has been abandoned due to heavy rain. Play didn't get underway due to the weather. And finally, Chris Hughton has been named the new Norwich manager after a compensation package has been agreed with Birmingham City. And that's all the sport.
Thank you, Dale. Well, it is now time. We have this every week. We want you to get a cup of coffee. We want a cup of tea, a hot chocolate maybe.
A few biscuits. Treat yourself.
We want you to
Get
put
that
your feet
milk
up.
out.
We want you to put your feet up. Milk's optional. And listen to News of the Week. And Jack Elliott, your News of the Week. Please discuss.
Well, my news of the week comes from South Africa today. The new secrecy laws, as they're being called, have been declared by some campaigners as apartheid-like legislation. Basically, the law allows the government to imprison journalists for up to 25 years who uncover so-called state secrets. The pressure group Right to Know has said that it's being used by the ANC to deflect anger towards the media, and it's a real shit because in Africa, South Africa is kind of seen as the example of a fully working democracy, and what a lot of journalists in South Africa are saying, and around Africa, are saying that governments will now say, well, they've done it in South Africa, now we can do it here.
Well,
what are your thoughts on this?
Well, they should be setting the standard, shouldn't they? South Africa, they're seen as the main power country in the whole of Africa, and the ones that seem to be moving towards democracy and what we call, well, in this country call like the right society.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a setback for them, really.
Yeah. Well, their constitution enshrines, right to freedom of expression, women's rights, human rights. Also,
right to censor. Right to censor.
Yep. Basically, also they're saying that the phone hacking scandal here has been used as an excuse to bring in this new law because they, in South Africa, like the UK, they have self-regulation of the press.
What did you make of in the Hans Cronje story that obviously we listened to, that before the actual betting scandal and the match fixing scandal, he'd been up to other, let's say, bad stuff in his life, but the media were told to basically keep it stum, because along with Francois Pienaar, he's meant to be one of the golden boys picked by Mandela.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a poll, he was named as the 11th greatest South African of all time. It doesn't surprise me that the media kept it out because, I mean, he was almost handpicked by Mandela as your... he came from a conservative Afrikaner village, and South Africa at that time needed reconciliation between the blacks and the whites. So it doesn't. I don't think it should have been kept out, but it doesn't surprise me that it was.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, to be honest, I'm a bit shocked hearing this news. 25 years, a lengthy sum for a journalist, a potential journalist. Now, one point I'd like to think is the expenses scandal that hit Britain. What I'd like to know is if that was, let's say, revealed in South Africa, would Heather Brooke broke it here? Would she get in trouble in South Africa? Do you think?
Seems like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, because a former ANC MP who broke a story last year about the security minister, him and his wife were both arrested for drug smuggling, something in the region of about £4 million worth of cocaine. Incredibly, the sentence was quite lax because the government said that his wife, who was she was the person mainly involved in the scandal, they said because she's got 3 kids, we can only put her in prison for a year. So that MP has turned around and said, if I broke that now, I could go to prison for 25 years.
Dale Harris, what is your news of the week?
Well, my news of the week, it was covered earlier, but I'm taking a different angle on it, of the Euro 2012. But I'm not looking at the football side of things. What I'm looking at is the fact that it's been held in Poland and more particularly Ukraine, with all the racial, abuse that seems to be going on in the country, and obviously lots of other problems they've been having, violence and whatnot. Should they be hosting the tournament? Is it right that it's there? Does it send out the right message?
Well, is it right that a country which, has been condemned in the past for their racial actions are being rewarded this, when there are plenty of other countries which, were quite happy to host this with, a clean record in terms of what they have done in the past? Now, the problem is, of course, is the racial issues are now are being linked to this day, which is something I think some people have not really grasped, that there are still issues happening to this day, especially in Ukraine. Jack, do you think it should be hosted there?
No, I don't. And I find it strange that the fact that Poland and Ukraine was given the tournament, and yet one of the main reasons that UEFA said that Italy didn't get the tournament was because of its football hooliganism problems. Having said that, story came out today in The Guardian that one of the persons interviewed on the Panorama show of the group Never Again has criticised the BBC for its sensationalist Panorama show, and said basically it's just showing a minority of. It's basically saying that's not what it's really like. That's just a minority.
But even though it's a minority, you still feel it's too much, and they should have had it sorted before having such a major tournament.
Well, yeah, I certainly agree with that. But one point I'd like to point out is, if, have the BBC sensationalised, that difficult to say, but I've said it, you could look at, there are certain gangs in England, certain footballing gangs in England, clearly a minority, but if a camera was shown what they get up to, maybe, people abroad would have a different idea of English football even.
But this happens in every country. Yeah, the fact that the media, the worst of the worst, they're very rarely shown that. I mean, look at America, for example. When you see stuff from them, it's, the best of America. This is what it's like to be American, be proud to be American. You don't often see them show the bad side of it, and I think that's right. I think they have the same happens in every country.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Tom, are you going to wrap it up with a fine news story?
Well, I am. It's going to be a top-notch news story.
Is it going to be a perler?
It is. It's not a schoolboy error, but it is a schoolboy error for Danny Pacheco. Danny Pacheco last night tweeted to Glenn Johnson, his teammate at Liverpool, good luck. I'm not going to say the word he used. I don't want to be causing offence.